Welcome to 5 Minutes of Momentum. These episodes are a short 5-minute burst of inspiration, motivation, and massive action. If you need that little kick up the butt to get things moving and to inspire you to take massive action, then every single Thursday I'll be sending you through a 5-minute episode to download, digest, and implement to finish your week off strong. Are you ready to get started? Let's go. Hey gorgeous, thank you so much for hitting download. Welcome back to the podcast. Today's 5 minutes of momentum is how to stay motivated and consistent. Business is not something that's always easy. There's definitely some challenges along the way. It's literally like a roller coaster. But staying motivated and consistent is really, really key. And I love talking about consistency because I feel like some people can get really caught up in this expectation of consistency meaning constantly. And I love to think about consistency being overall consistent and thinking about how I'm serving my clients in a consistent manner, how I'm serving my audience in a consistent manner, and staying motivated to do that is really challenging. And I think one of the things that I love talking about when it comes to motivation is that motivation is actually kind of unreliable. And so I focus on building momentum. So if we focus on building momentum, which means taking action even when you don't feel motivated, you're more likely to stay consistent and to be able to build momentum to take massive action. To be successful in business, you need to be an action taker. You need to be someone that takes massive aligned action consistently. Otherwise, you just fall behind and you don't actually achieve the goals that you want to achieve. That also brings me to making sure that you're setting motivating goals. Because if your goals are boring, if your goals aren't actually specific, they're not actually allowing you to feel good about what you're working towards, then you're most likely not going to feel motivated at all. So one of the things I actually shared with my mastermind members recently is around rewarding yourself with regards to hitting your goals. And I even do this monthly. So I think sometimes people go, oh, I can't celebrate or reward myself for small goals because that would just be ridiculous. Whereas I do this on a regular basis and I feel like it's really beneficial. It keeps me staying motivated, but also it helps me stay on track to actually achieve those bigger goals because bigger goals take longer. And it can be very easy to be unmotivated, to get exhausted and tired, and that's where things start to then fall apart. So one of the things that I like to do is I have a whiteboard. I'm a super visual person. I have a whiteboard in my office. I write down my goals for the month. This is obviously I've already mapped out my yearly goals and my quarterly goals. And then every month I just add my goals onto a whiteboard. I have the month, I have the amount of income that I want to make, and then I also write down the key things that I want to have happen that month. So it might be sign-ups to the next mastermind, it might be finishing the draft of my book, it might be bringing on new one-to-one clients or retreat bookings, like whatever it is that I'm working towards that month is written up on this whiteboard. And then next to those individual little goals, I actually have how I'm going to reward myself because the reward is actually much more exciting. And sometimes you need to work out what motivates you because it's not always going to be money either. So even though I have a financial goal on the board, because I'm a big believer of manifesting and having that number really, really visual for me to work towards is amazing because I feel like that's actually often how you hit those big goals without ever necessarily taking the specific actions to get there. It's staying motivated towards hitting it and actually manifesting that goal. But often what happens is that I'm more motivated towards the people that I serve. So when I'm writing goals, I have the number of people that I would like to have in the next round of the mastermind. I have the number of people that I would like to have at the retreat. And yes, that obviously I've worked out the profitability of those offers. So it's how many people I would like in there for sure. But I'm more motivated about the feeling that's going to happen in those environments and those containers. So when I think about hitting that goal, I visualize the feeling of having that amount of people at the retreat. And I feel into what it would feel like to have that many people I would be serving in the mastermind. So it's how I think about it. And then I have the reward alongside, how am I going to celebrate hitting that goal? And so I write down next to that one, how I'm going to celebrate myself. And so they're smaller little things about how I do that. So it might be travel, it might be booking a weekend away, it might be a massage, it might be buying myself something, it might be booking a dinner with my friends to celebrate, whatever it might be. Is up to me, which means your rewards are up to you, right? So you write a list of things that you would love to experience, that you would love to enjoy and reward yourself with, and then add them to your goals list somewhere visual so then you can be motivated to work towards them. The other thing is really key when it comes to staying motivated is your bigger why, like why you're actually doing what you're doing and what you're working towards. So keeping that vision of your future top of mind is really key, because business can get bloody hard sometimes. And there's sometimes where you have to push through, and there's other times where you need to support yourself and rest. And so you've got to trust that you're working towards something that really lights you up. And if you're not, then you're more likely just going to just give up on it, right? And when things get too hard, you just fall back to the default. And so I have a strong emotional why about why I do what I do. I have a really strong vision for my life and how I want to live it and the things I want to experience. And that's what I'm working towards, because sometimes just having a number written up on a board is not necessarily motivating, especially when you get to like big numbers, right? So when you're working towards like $500,000, you go, well, what will I even want at that point, right? So because it seems so out of reach, or it seems so massive, it might be like, well, I'm not even sure how I will reward myself or what life will be like at that level. And so it can be almost like out of sight, out of mind, out of reach. And so what we want to do is actually make sure that you have a real emotional why behind what you're creating and the life you want to live, because otherwise it's just not going to be motivating in order for you to stay consistent. The other key things when it comes to being consistent is systems, like building systems into your business, making sure that you're planning to stay consistent, because otherwise it can very easily become inconsistent. I mean, inconsistent with your income, inconsistent with your sales activities, your growth activities, and your social media activities. So if you're finding yourself being inconsistent, then you want to ask yourself, how have I set myself up to win? Because you most likely have set yourself up to fail, which means you probably failed to plan. You don't have allocated time that you can work on these key things, and that's actually then causing us to just fall back, and we're not actually hitting our goals, or we're being inconsistent. So if the inconsistency piece is really speaking to you, you want to ask yourself, how have I actually set up my business to support the consistency? Because that's usually where we're falling down. So feel free, if you want me to do a separate podcast episode on this, reach out to me and tell me, and that way I can create a separate podcast on consistency, because there's definitely some systems that I've put in place that have been beneficial for that. But otherwise, if you need the accountability to stay consistent and to stay motivated, then reach out. More than happy to work with you. I've got some really amazing programs happening at the moment. I've got the next round of the Next Level Mastermind, which only opens every 6 months. And then I've also got Unstoppable Sales reopening in October for a November start. So if you have any questions about those, feel free to reach out. Otherwise, have an incredible week.